The sound of rain against the hospital window had always comforted Anna. It was steady, predictable, everything her heart no longer was. The night shift stretched endlessly, the clock ticking like a reminder that time kept moving even when faith stood still. It had been 2 years since her husband, David, passed away. A car accident on a foggy night had stolen him without warning, leaving her alone with unanswered prayers and a silence that felt like God's absence. People told her he was in a better place, that God had a plan, but to Anna those words had long lost their meaning. She still went to church occasionally, out of habit more than belief. She still whispered prayers before sleep, though they felt more like echoes than conversations. "Lord," she often said, "if you're still near, give me a sign." But heaven stayed quiet. That evening, the hospital ward was unusually calm. The only sound came from the hum of machines and the soft rhythm of her footsteps. She passed the chapel in the hallway, a small room filled with the faint scent of candles and lilies. Normally she avoided it, but tonight something tugged gently at her heart. She hesitated, then stepped inside. A single candle flickered beneath a wooden cross. The light danced weakly against the shadows, and Anna felt a strange mixture of comfort and distance. "If you're real," she whispered, "why does it feel like you've stopped listening?" Her words faded into the quiet, and yet something unexpected stirred within her. A thought, or maybe a whisper. "Even when you don't see me, I'm still working." She blinked, startled. It wasn't a voice, not really. More like a memory rising from deep within her soul. She shook her head and left quickly, pushing the feeling away. Later that night, a new patient arrived. A homeless man around 60 brought in after collapsing near the train station. He had no ID, no family, and his condition was severe. As she checked his pulse and oxygen levels, he opened his eyes weakly and murmured, "Don't. Let me die alone." Her chest tightened. "You're not alone," she said softly, adjusting his blanket. "You're safe here." He smiled faintly. "You sound like an angel," he said before drifting back to sleep. For reasons she couldn't explain, those words lingered. She hadn't been called anything holy in a long time. Over the next few days, Anna cared for him, feeding him, talking to him when he was awake, praying silently over him when his breathing grew labored. One morning, she found a small wooden rosary tied around his wrist, worn smooth from use. He caught her looking at it. "Found it years ago," he said, voice trembling. "When I was at my lowest, someone told me, when you can't pray, the Spirit prays for you." She froze. The words hit her like a soft wind against old embers. "What do you mean?" He smiled faintly. "Romans 8, I think. The Spirit helps us in our weakness." That verse kept me alive. She didn't know what to say. When she left his room, her eyes burned with tears she hadn't expected. That night, as she walked home under the rain, she whispered those words over and over. "The Spirit helps us in our weakness." For the first time in years, her prayer wasn't a demand, it was a sigh. When she got home, she found David's old Bible buried in a drawer. She opened it to the book of Romans, and there it was, familiar yet new. The Spirit himself intercedes for us with groanings too deep for words. She traced her finger over the verse, and something inside her cracked open. A grief long buried, a longing she had denied. Tears came slowly, quietly, without shame. She didn't understand what was happening, only that she felt less alone. The silence she had feared so long was no longer empty. It felt inhabited. In the days that followed, she noticed small things. The way sunlight filtered through hospital windows, the kindness in a coworker's smile, the quiet resilience in her patience. These were ordinary things, but they shimmered now with meaning. It was as if grace had been there all along, waiting for her to notice. One evening, the homeless man, his name was Henry, took her hand and said, "When I get out of here, I'm going to thank God for you." She smiled gently. "Maybe thank him for getting you through." He nodded weakly. "That's what I mean. He sends people when we forget he's near." That night, Anna walked home beneath a sky washed clean by rain. She still had questions. She still had pain. But somewhere in that fragile in-between, she felt the faint pulse of hope. Maybe God hadn't stopped working. Maybe he'd just been waiting for her to stop fighting the silence. As she reached her apartment, the city lights shimmered like candles, and for the first time in years, she whispered, "Thank you." The next few weeks unfolded in a rhythm of quiet diligence. Each morning, Anna woke before dawn, packed her small lunch, and walked through the still streets to the hospital. The world seemed gentler somehow, lighter, even if her life wasn't. She found herself praying again, not with long words or grand requests, but with small sighs of surrender. Lord, stay near. Give me strength. Sometimes she said nothing at all, trusting that the Spirit would fill the silence for her. Henry continued to recover, though his progress was uneven. Some days he was cheerful, telling stories about his youth, about his time playing music on the streets of Chicago. Other days, pain and exhaustion clouded his eyes, yet through it all, he carried a peace that puzzled her. Once, as she changed his bandages, he smiled faintly and said, "You know, I used to think faith meant never being afraid. But now I think faith is being afraid and trusting God anyway." Those words stayed with her. They echoed when she washed her hands, when she walked the empty hallways, when she sat in the hospital chapel at night after her shift. She had feared for so long, feared loss, silence, and the fragile ache of prayer unanswered. But perhaps the Spirit didn't take fear away. Perhaps he taught hearts how to walk through it. One Friday morning, Henry's condition suddenly worsened. The nurses rushed around him as alarms blared. Anna pressed her hand over his pulse, whispering his name. "Stay with me, Henry." His breathing was shallow, his face pale. "The Spirit," he managed, voice faint as a thread, "helps us in weakness." And then he was gone. For a long time, Anna stood frozen, her hand still on his chest, feeling the last warmth fade beneath her palm. The room was silent except for the steady hum of machines. The doctor entered quietly, placing a gentle hand on her shoulder, but Anna barely heard him. Her throat tightened as grief rose like a wave she could no longer hold back. She turned away, whispering under her breath, "God, why did you let me hope again just to take him too?" That night, she sat alone in her apartment, the city lights blurring beyond the rain-streaked window. On the table lay Henry's rosary. The nurse had given it to her after they cleaned his room. She picked it up, tracing each worn bead. "If the Spirit helps in our weakness," she murmured bitterly, "then why does it still hurt so much?" The apartment remained silent, but a gentle thought crossed her mind, as soft as breath. Because love always hurts before it heals. Tears slipped down her cheeks. For the first time, she didn't fight them. She let herself grieve, not just Henry, but David, her lost peace, her wounded faith. It felt endless, yet somewhere deep inside, beneath the tears, there was something different, an undercurrent of comfort she couldn't explain. The next day, she went to the hospital chapel again. The candles flickered faintly against the marble walls. She knelt, still clutching the rosary. "Lord," she whispered, "I don't know how to pray anymore." And in that stillness, the words of Scripture came back to her like a voice remembered. The Spirit himself intercedes for us with groanings too deep for words. She closed her eyes and let the silence become her prayer. That Sunday, she decided to attend Mass for the first time in months. The church was small but full. Children's laughter echoed in the foyer. Old hymns filled the air. As the gospel was read, she felt as though the words were meant for her alone. "Come to me, all who are weary and burdened, and I will give you rest." After communion, she sat quietly, her heart heavy but not hopeless. She felt something stirring inside her, not a grand revelation, but a gentle knowing that weakness wasn't failure, it was invitation. Every moment she felt too tired, too broken, too small. Those were the moments God's Spirit had been closest. That afternoon, she visited the garden behind the hospital, where a statue of the Virgin Mary stood surrounded by white lilies. The air smelled faintly of earth and rain. She sat on a bench nearby, watching sunlight filter through the leaves. An elderly priest approached, carrying a watering can. He recognized her from church. "You're one of the nurses, aren't you?" he asked kindly. "Yes, Father," she said. "I come here sometimes to think." He nodded, setting the can down. "Good place for that. The world is loud. God prefers whispers." She hesitated, then asked softly, "Father, do you ever feel like God is silent for too long?" He smiled gently. "Silence doesn't mean absence. Sometimes it's the Spirit teaching us how to listen. You see, prayer isn't about getting answers. It's about becoming the kind of person who can hear them when they come." Anna looked down at the rosary in her hands. "Someone told me the Spirit prays when we can't." "That's true," the priest said. "And sometimes the Spirit also weeps with us. You see, the language of heaven isn't always words. It's love." Her eyes glistened. "Then maybe I've been praying all along," she said softly. "Indeed," the priest replied, smiling. "You've been walking in grace even when you thought you were lost." When she returned to work, something in her shifted. The sorrow was still there, but it no longer ruled her. She began to see beauty even in pain, the way patients held each other's hands, the way nurses prayed silently over the dying. She realized she wasn't alone in her questions or her grief. Everyone carried weakness. Everyone needed grace. One evening, as she finished her rounds, she noticed a young intern sitting in the break room, head in his hands. He looked up when she entered, his eyes red. "Rough night," he said. "First patient I lost." Anna sat across from him. "It doesn't get easier," she said quietly, "but it gets holier." He frowned. "Holier?" She nodded. "When we learn to see the spirit even in the pain. When we stop asking why and start asking how. How can I love here? How can I trust here? How can I serve here?" The intern stared at her for a long moment, then whispered, "That's hard." "Yes," she said, smiling faintly. "But that's what faith is. Trusting God with the parts we can't fix." Later, as she walked home beneath the fading evening sky, the wind brushed gently against her face. She looked up, watching the first stars appear. For the first time since David's death, she didn't feel haunted by absence. She felt accompanied. The air itself seemed alive with something unseen yet present. When she reached her apartment, she placed Henry's rosary on the nightstand beside her bed. "Thank you," she whispered, "for sending him to remind me that even in weakness, you never left." And as she drifted to sleep, her heart whispered the prayer she could never put into words, one that the Spirit, in his perfect silence, carried straight to heaven. Winter came early that year. The city's skyline disappeared behind mist and cold rain that seemed to fall endlessly. Inside the hospital, the days blurred into one another. Emergencies, healing, and loss weaving together in a fragile rhythm that tested everyone's spirit. For Anna, this season brought both peace and unease. She prayed more now, sometimes aloud, sometimes only in the quiet rhythm of her breathing. But she also felt something stirring, something she couldn't yet name. It was as if God was preparing her for something beyond her understanding. One evening, as the ward settled into its night shift calm, the head nurse called her aside. "Anna," she said softly, "I'm assigning you to room 12, a little boy, 8 years old. His name is Caleb. Terminal heart condition." The words hit her chest like a cold wind. Children's cases always pierce deeper, but something in the nurse's tone carried a weight beyond routine. "He doesn't have much time," she added. "His parents are struggling. I thought you could help." When Anna entered the room, she found a frail boy sitting up in bed, a small Bible open on his lap. His mother sat nearby, eyes swollen from tears, holding a rosary that looked nearly identical to Henry's. The father stood by the window, staring out as though trying to find a reason beyond the glass. "Hi," Anna said softly, smiling as she approached. "I'm Anna. I'll be looking after you tonight." Caleb grinned faintly, his voice thin but bright. "I asked Jesus to send me someone nice. Maybe that's you." She laughed softly. "Maybe it is." From that moment, something changed inside her. Each shift she spent with Caleb became sacred ground. They talked about everything: his favorite animals, what heaven might look like, how stars were like angels watching from afar. He asked her to read to him from the Bible each night, and though her voice sometimes trembled, she did. "The Spirit helps us in our weakness," she read one evening, and he smiled sleepily. "That means God even understands when I'm scared, right?" "Yes," she whispered, brushing his hair from his forehead. "Especially then." As days turned to weeks, his condition worsened. His breathing grew shallow, his skin lost its color, but his faith only deepened. Once, when Anna tried to hide her tears, Caleb squeezed her hand and said, "Don't be sad, Miss Anna. When I go, I'll tell Jesus to help you smile again." Those words carved themselves into her heart. A few nights later, a heavy storm battered the hospital windows. Power flickered. Thunder echoed across the sky. Anna was called to Caleb's room. The monitors were beeping rapidly. His small body trembled with effort. His mother sobbed quietly, holding his hand. Anna leaned close, whispering, "I'm here, Caleb. You're not alone." He opened his eyes slightly and whispered, "It's okay. I can see the light." Then just like that, peace. The machine stilled. The air felt holy. Anna's knees weakened as tears streamed freely down her face. She had seen many people die, but this was different. It was as if heaven had opened for a moment right before her eyes. She felt a warmth settle over her heart, quiet and steady, like the gentle presence of the Spirit she had long sought. In the days that followed, she found herself remembering every word Caleb had said. His mother had left her the child's Bible with a note tucked inside. He said you helped him feel close to God. Thank you. Anna wept as she read it. She realized that somewhere along this journey, from Henry's quiet faith to Caleb's innocent trust, she had stopped seeking visible signs and started living faith itself. But God's lessons rarely end in comfort. A few weeks later, A letter arrived from the hospital administration. There were funding cuts, and her unit was being merged with another. Some staff would be reassigned, others would lose their positions entirely. Anna's name was on the list for reassignment, hundreds of miles away, in a smaller hospital near the countryside. The news left her torn. She had just begun to feel rooted again, to see her work as ministry, not just duty. Moving meant leaving behind the city, her parish, and the fragile peace she had rebuilt. That night, she sat in the chapel again, her heart wrestling with uncertainty. "Lord," she whispered, "I finally feel your presence again. Why are you moving me now?" The candlelight flickered, casting shadows that danced along the wall. For a long time, there was only silence. Then, deep in her soul, she felt the same quiet assurance that had once come to her in her darkest nights. "Trust me. Every place I send you, I am already there." The next morning, she accepted the transfer. When she told the head nurse, the older woman smiled knowingly. Sometimes God needs us to carry his light somewhere new. 2 months later, Anna arrived at the new hospital, a small building nestled among rolling hills and fields of wildflowers. The pace was slower, the air cleaner, the nights quieter. At first, she felt out of place. But soon, she began to notice the same divine fingerprints she had seen back in the city, in a patient smile, in the laughter of the staff, in the stillness of early morning prayers whispered before dawn. One evening, after tending to a patient, she stepped outside to watch the sunset. The horizon glowed gold and crimson, painting the sky with fire and peace. She thought of Caleb and Henry, of all the souls who had passed through her care, and she whispered, "You were with me even when I couldn't see you." A soft breeze brushed against her cheek, warm and familiar. It carried no sound, but her heart understood. The spirit had never left. That night, she wrote a letter to a friend from her old parish. "I used to think faith was about seeing miracles. Now I know it's about walking through the ordinary and finding God there. I've learned that the Spirit doesn't always shout. Sometimes he just breathes beside us until our hearts remember how to hope." She sealed the letter and smiled. For the first time in years, she wasn't afraid of tomorrow. The next morning, she awoke to a message from one of her old coworkers. A patient she once cared for, a man battling depression, had asked about her. "He said you prayed with him once," the message read. "He said that prayer saved his life." Anna closed her eyes, overwhelmed. All those moments when she had felt invisible, unseen, God had been weaving them together quietly into something good. She realized that Romans 8:28 was not a promise of easy days, but of divine purpose. All things work together for good for those who love him. The Spirit had interceded in her weakness, shaped her pain into compassion, her silence into prayer, her loss into light for others. That evening, she walked home through the golden haze of dusk, her heart full and unafraid. "Thank you," she whispered into the wind. "Thank you for never giving up on me." Spring unfolded like a quiet hymn. The fields surrounding the hospital bloomed with wild daisies and the faint scent of jasmine that carried on the breeze. Anna had now spent 6 months in her new assignment, and though she still missed her old parish and familiar faces, something deeper had settled in her spirit, a peace that was no longer dependent on circumstances. She had learned that faith wasn't about clinging to what she could see, but resting in what she couldn't. Each day began with the same rhythm, the ringing of chapel bells at dawn, the gentle hum of prayers whispered over coffee, and the steady movement of patients who had begun to recognize her as more than a nurse. They called her the woman who prays with her eyes, because even when she didn't speak, something in her presence made them feel seen. Anna didn't take credit. She knew it wasn't her light they sensed, it was his. One afternoon, she met a patient named Elena, a young mother struggling with cancer. The illness had taken nearly everything from her strength, her hair, and much of her hope. She often sat by the window, staring at the hills beyond, silent and withdrawn. When Anna approached her one day with a gentle smile, Elena didn't respond. She just whispered, "I used to pray every night, but now, I don't even know what to say anymore." Anna's heart stirred. She sat beside her and took her hand. "You don't have to say anything," she said softly. "The Spirit already knows what's in your heart. He prays for you when you can't." Elena looked at her with tears in her eyes. "Do you really believe that?" Anna nodded. "I used to think silence meant God had turned away, but now I know silence can be his way of holding us closer." That evening, Anna brought her a small wooden rosary, the one Henry had given her long ago. "This helped me remember that I was never alone," she said. "Maybe it will remind you too." Elena held it gently, as though touching something sacred. Over the next few weeks, they began to pray together. Not long prayers, but short moments of surrender. Lord, be with me. Holy Spirit, give me peace. Sometimes they just sat together in silence, listening to the wind brush against the window. One morning, Elena asked Anna to read to her from the Bible. Anna opened to Romans 8, the same passage that had once rekindled her faith. As she read, her voice wavered but never broke. The Spirit helps us in our weakness, for we do not know what to pray for as we ought, but the Spirit himself intercedes for us with groanings too deep for words. Elena smiled faintly through her tears. That's beautiful, she whispered. It feels like it was written just for me. It was, Anna said, and for me too. As the weeks passed, Elena's body weakened, but her peace grew stronger. There was a light in her that defied illness, a calm surrender that could only come from grace. On her final night, Anna sat by her side, holding her hand. Elena whispered, "Promise me something. Keep praying for others like you did for me." "I promise," Anna said, her voice breaking. Elena smiled, her eyes soft and sure. "Then I'll see you again in his light." When the morning came, Elena was gone, but her room felt filled, not with loss, but with presence. Anna closed her eyes and whispered, "Rest now." And the words felt more like a prayer of gratitude than of grief. Later that day, Anna stepped outside. The air was cool, and a single white butterfly fluttered near the chapel door. She watched it hover and lift toward the sun, and in her heart, she felt the unmistakable peace that only the Spirit could bring. That night, as she walked home beneath the starlit sky, memories of all she had lost and all she had found washed over her. David's laughter, Henry's words, Caleb's faith, Elena's peace. They were gone from the world, yet somehow she felt surrounded by them. Their stories, their prayers, their courage had become part of her own. She stopped near a small bridge overlooking the quiet stream that bordered the hospital. The reflection of the moon shimmered across the water, rippling like a heartbeat. "Lord," she said softly, "I don't understand all your ways, but I see now that you were never silent. Every heartbreak, every delay, every prayer I thought you ignored, you were shaping something beautiful through it all." A deep stillness filled her. She realized that what she had sought for years, a sign, a miracle, a voice, had been around her all along. The Spirit had been the quiet thread holding her life together, weaving every sorrow into grace. In that moment, she felt a freedom she hadn't known before. Not freedom from pain, but from fear. She no longer needed to see the road ahead. It was enough to know who walked beside her. When she returned home, she wrote in her journal, words that she knew were not entirely her own. Faith is not the absence of weakness, but the courage to believe that God's strength fills it. The Spirit does not erase pain, He transforms it. Every unanswered prayer, every silent night, every tear becomes the language of heaven, written in love. She closed the journal feeling an overwhelming sense of peace. Tomorrow would bring new challenges, new patience, and perhaps new sorrows, but she no longer dreaded the unknown. She had learned to rest in it, knowing that the Spirit's hand would guide her, just as it always had. The next morning, as the dawn broke over the hills, Anna stood by her window watching the light spread across the fields. Somewhere far off, the church bells rang, gentle and sure. She folded her hands and whispered one final prayer for the day. "Holy Spirit, lead me where I cannot see, and teach me to love as you do." The sunlight touched her face and she smiled. For the first time, she no longer felt like a woman trying to find her faith. She was a woman living it. As the camera fades on her quiet silhouette by the window, her voice could be heard one last time, steady, grateful, and full of hope. Even when we don't know what to pray, heaven still hears us. The Spirit never stops speaking. He speaks through our weakness, through our tears, through every heartbeat that still dares to trust. So whatever you're facing tonight, remember, God is still working, even here, even now. If this story touched your heart, take a moment to like this video, share it with someone who needs hope tonight, and subscribe so we can keep walking in faith together. Leave a comment below and tell me where God has been working quietly in your life. You may inspire someone else's miracle.